So if somebody has a haunted house, what is one of the first things that they should be doing to help kind of alleviate that situation?
Prompted me to write the book is that people always ask me, like, how can I tell if my house is haunted? Because the first thing is, like, you see stuff out of the corner of your eye, you feel stuff, you're just like, am I just crazy?
Okay, is Halloween crazy? Literally, it's a pagan holiday. Should people be dressing up in masks? Is this an evil holiday?
As a person who can see things, the whole thing about the veil being thin, that is absolutely true. You can actually feel many more of them than you can the rest of the year. These are the common things that you will find, because energy can transfer through screens. You have to seal your screens with energy or things will come through.
A lot of people, when they start their awakening process, or they're like, oh, I want to activate my mediumship abilities or any of that, they get really scared. They don't know what they're seeing. They don't know what they're experiencing.
You keep dolls in your bedroom? And she said, yeah, I do. And I said, oh, that's not a good idea. So if there happens to be a ghost or leftover of a person that wants to occupy something, it will choose a doll. We had one of those automatic paper towel roll things, and it would go off when no one was in the bathroom, and everybody'd be like, that's creepy, like I don't want to go in there. And I go in there and I see like this little creature, and it's literally just standing in front of the paper towel dispenser just playing with it. Aww. Because it has enough energy to play with it. And I'm like, it's not going to hurt you.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Transformation to Expansion. I'm your host, Lajoie Bradley, and today we have a very special guest. Real quick, Kai, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
So thanks for having me, first off. I am Kai. I am a Hawaiian Kahuna, which is the Hawaiian version of a shaman. I'm an energy healer. I am a person who deals with the spirits. I settle the spirits. The other thing I do primarily is my specialty is removing negative energy and entities from people, places, and things. And I do that with the help of the mana, the power that has been given to me through the practice of being a Hawaiian Kahuna.
I love that. You said mana?
Yeah, it's like the Hawaiian word for power. It's like, it would be like chi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but in Hawaiian, in the tradition of Hawaii, like mana isn't everything. Just like with Native Americans, right? Spirit is in everything. In Hawaii, we call that spirit mana.
That is so cool. Okay, so there's actually a cartoon, and it's called, it's called Hunter x Hunter. It's like a cartoon anime. It's for kids. Like it's for kids. Okay, I'm a kid at heart. Leave me alone. But they actually talk about that in the show, and that's what they call it, mana. Actually, I need to double check that it's the right show. But so I'm just like, that's really cool, because they probably got that from Hawaiian culture, or maybe somebody who wrote the show was, of Hawaiian ethnicity or something. So it's just really cool that, anyway, that it's in there, because it's literally a kid's show. So it's like, it's not supposed to be that deep, but I think somebody thought a little bit too deeply.
Well, it could also be like a reference to like mana from heaven kind of thing, so it could be something like that too. But
Right. I remember, so when we met at the spiritual fair, the Weemy fairs in Washington State. Really cool fairs. Y'all need to check it out if you haven't been there, and if you're in Washington State, or I think Oregon too. And it's really cool because this is fair with all of these, tarot readers, healers, shamans, light workers. And that was something that really caught my eye about your table. You had a book about how to get rid of like spirits if your house is haunted. And I had never seen a book like that. We've had books, we've watched, or not watched, but we read Goosebumps when we were kids, right? Like some of us have watched the horror movies. I'm a chicken, so I'm not watching them. But I've never seen a book on actually how to get rid of the haunted people, the haunted spirits and stuff. So I just think it's so cool. Can you talk about that? So if somebody has a haunted house, what is one of the first things that they should be doing to help kind of alleviate that situation?
well, the thing about the book, or what prompted me to write the book, is that people always ask me, like, how can I tell if my house is haunted? Because the first thing is, like, you see stuff out of the corner of your eye, you feel stuff, you're just like, am I just crazy? Because that's the kind of stuff that they normally discount, right? We're just like, oh, I'm imagining it. It's a trick of the light. It's like some weird sound. I'm just,
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that I say in the book is, you're not crazy. And these are the things that if you encounter and I actually give a list, like, these are the common things that you will find in a house that is haunted. And if you have one or more of these things, the likelihood is it is haunted. And then the second part of the book is, what do I do about that? Like, now that I've established that the house is haunted, what are my options? For some people, it's like, okay, we're packing now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And other people are like, okay, well, this is my house. I don't want to leave it. And then I say, okay, well, here are your options. Like, you can look for a paranormal team, and if you choose to go with a paranormal investigator, these are the things that you look for. These are the things that you don't want, and
Mm-hmm.
why you don't want them. And then, and here's your other options. If you're religious in nature, then you could go this route. If you're not really religious, you can go this route. I mean, there's different options for different people, so that they can, like, at least have some idea of what could work for them, and then they can make their decisions based on whatever their circumstances are.
I love that too, because I don't know, when you say like see things out of the corner of your eye, I'm like, I see that walking through the city. Like for me, I'm like, not that every place is haunted or that the city is haunted, but I just see there's always energies everywhere, right? But one thing I'll never discount though is that people see like literally the dresser will move. I remember one of my friends, she this is back in college, but in her dorm, she had this dorm room where I think her roommate had moved out, so she had it all alone to herself because the roommate had left school. And straight up she was just like, no, the whole desk moved or something would fall on the floor. But it's not like one of those things where it's like, how like sometimes stuff will just kind of like if I left like a tissue on the desk and I open the window and the wind blows the tissue. She's like, no, like literally books flat on the surface just falling off. So I feel like that's another level, right? That is definitely something trying to get her attention in that state.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
how would you interpret that? And how would you deal with that too? Because I think ultimately the way the school dealt with it was they just had her move out and nobody lived in that room. But they didn't have nobody go in and get rid of the spirit. So how would you have dealt with that?
Well, see, in my case, because of my abilities, I can actually see things. Like, I can see the shape of things. So somebody says, "Oh, there's, what's happening?" I'm like, "Oh, there's a ghost standing there, or there is what looks like what I would call a demon standing there." Because I went to Catholic school, so things look like angels and demons. That's my perception. Other people see them differently. But, the first thing I would do is just look at it. Like, what is there? And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just, like a poltergeist, which is technically a noisy ghost. They just want your attention. Sometimes it's, there are lots of other spirits, creatures, whatever, that we can't see, that do have the ability to interact with our world. Like fairies. And like in Hawaii, we have the legends of the menehune, which are like the little people.
Mm-hmm.
And they do stuff like build walls. And it's like this running joke in Hawaii where we always take our shoes off when we go into the house. And so you go outside and everybody's slippers are on the outside. And if usually everybody's neat about it, right? You stack all your slippers. And if you come out and all the shoes are like all over the place, that means the menehune have been playing with your shoes.
Oh, I love that.
And so there are lots of different types of creatures that could be, like, for instance, where I used to work, we had one of those automatic paper towel roll things, and it would go off when no one was in the bathroom. And everybody be like, "That's creepy. Like, I don't want to go in there." And I go in there, and I see like this little creature, and it's literally just standing in front of the paper towel dispenser, just playing with it because it has
Oh,
enough energy to play with it. And I'm like, it's not going to hurt you. I'm like, just go in there and use the bathroom. But people are like, it's so creepy. The thing goes off by itself. I'm like, it's not a big deal. So just because it's different and it's like a creature, that doesn't mean it's necessarily harmful. I mean, it's so, to me, because of everything that I've seen, like, there's a range. There's like the stuff that's actually good or can be good, like fairies, and then other things which, you can go all the way to like demons, and then of course angels. So it just depends upon what's happening, whatever. So in the case of like your friend, if I was there, I'd be like, okay, so first off, what is it? And I would actually try to see what it is and see what it's attached to. Because it could be the room, it could be the desk, It could be something else in the room because energy is everything, and energy, and objects can absorb things. So, I mean, like I walked through a thrift store with a friend of mine one time and I was like, don't touch that table. And he's like, why? I said, because there's something in it. Because I can see not only the energy of the table, but the energy of the thing that's occupying the table. So that's what I would have done. And I mean, as far as the school goes, if they moved her out of that room, that basically tells me that it's happened before.
Yeah.
So, and that's what most people do. Like, if something happens, they're just like, oh, let's just give her a different room, or let's just get that table outside, or whatever. Like, they don't understand that that kind of stuff can live and be trapped inside furniture.
I've heard so many there's so many ways we could go with this. So there's get because it's like I have like my own like examples, and then there's also like a lot of Indonesian islands, they still have their indigenous religion or spirituality, and a lot of them they have these objects that are very like regarded highly because they have some spiritual energy or power, not you can say powers, but there's spiritual energy that they put or that these objects have, and there's so much energy they'll move on their own. I'm talking the knives will literally not float as if somebody is grabbing it, but they'll move like on the floor on their own without anybody touching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like two different things, what the movies tell us and then what actually happens. But so there's that, and then also, I was in, I think, Bali, and I think maybe that's what I was seeing. I don't know, but for me, I was at this hotel, and the painting, I was looking at this painting, and it just like, and you can let me know if this was not a, I was only here for 1 day, so I don't think it was taking my soul or anything like that. But I was watching it and it would just suck you in. And it had this like, I don't want to say there was like a dark shadow around it or whatever. It was literally just a painting, but it sucks you in, and it's like when I looked at it, it started to like warp a little bit, but not a lot. Would you say that's kind of like what you're talking about, or did I just, look into like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's an infused object, meaning it's got something in it that allows it to connect with the energy of a living person. That can happen with masks, which
Mm.
is why I don't like masks and I don't like dolls for the same reason. Because sometimes, you walk past a doll and it's like, it feels like something's watching you from the doll. It's like, it's because something is watching you from the doll. I had this conversation with this woman one time who was looking for some stones, and she was saying that she wanted to get a bunch of stones for her bedroom so she could put it around her dolls. And I'm like, you keep dolls in your bedroom? And she said, yeah, I do. And I said, oh, that's not a good idea. She said, why? I said, because dolls are made empty, but they are, like spiritually, they're empty, but they're made in the image of people. So if there happens to be a ghost or leftover of a person that wants to occupy something, it will choose a doll. And so you
That's a
could
real thing?
actually, yeah.
I thought it was
Oh,
just the
yeah.
movies. Oh my God.
Oh, no,
That's
no.
crazy. But it makes
No.
sense because it's more human like, right? They don't
Yeah.
want to stuff themselves in a book. They rather go into the doll if they had a
Yeah.
choice, right?
Yeah. I mean, because it's kind of like a familiar form. And from there, they can gather more energy from the person, from the home. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you start getting stuff that moves, and like the doll is not where you put it. Like that elf on the shelf thing. I used to get creeped out with that thing because like that can actually happen if it gets enough power. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but it can. And, I'm sure people have walked by masks and just been like, is that thing watching me? And, the answer is, yeah, because you can actually feel when something's watching you. It's literally their energy touching your energy, and that's what makes you look at it because there's something there.
Yeah. I mean, masks are, yeah, we can get into masks. I feel like there's levels to it, right? They can be used for very high reasons. And they can be used for really low reasons also.
For ceremonial masks, like masks that are used for a specific purpose, those have a lot of power, but they're also protected because they are there for a purpose, right?
Mm.
And so, like, in other words, those are ones that are revered, they're used for a specific purpose, the intention for their existence is built in. And so for me, those are okay because they serve their purpose. It's the ones that are just kind of randomly put up that don't actually have an intention that goes with them to protect them or to contain them. They can serve as vessels.
Yeah, because it's empty, right? And there's no protection or anything. Whereas in ceremony, there's a lot more intention, which I think is one of the most important things you can do to prepare for any kind of ceremony or journey or whatever.
Yep.
Um, yeah, there's the intention of setting up that space so nothing can enter, right?
Yep.
Really, really important. I feel like we should treat our homes like that, to be honest. um, but yeah, oh, I love this. It's giving like Halloween vibes, and I'm obsessed. Okay, so let's talk about Halloween real quick.
Okay.
So, is it okay? Is Halloween crazy? Like, or is that literally it's a pagan holiday? Should people be dressing up in masks? Is this an evil holiday? Is it okay? Like, what?
I think it's fine, but I mean, I like Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
as a person who can see things, the whole thing about the veil being thin, that is absolutely true.
Really? Okay, okay. Go explain, explain.
Well, I mean, because what happens is, it's literally like the thinning of the veil between our plane of existence and where the spirits typically dwell, and they can cross over. And so, for people who can see, like me, or feel, like if you're really sensitive to energy, you can actually feel many more of them than you can the rest of the year. And unfortunately, during this time, this is also when people who are, bad actors, so to speak, will try to tap into that extra energy to do nefarious things. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's kind of a half and half. But for me, it's like, it's a time when if you are, it's kind of like the Dia de la Muerta kind of thing where like you celebrate with your family, so the family kind of comes back and spends time. So it's one of those, it can be that for some people, but for me it's like I just like to watch. I just like to see all the people that come through because all the different spirits, and they're all, it's funny, it's almost like a parade in a way because everybody comes dressed in the best clothes of their time, so you see people from like all different eras just strolling the streets between the costumes. It's quite
That's so
interesting for
cool.
me. Yeah, and it's, when people do the thing where they feel somebody walk by them and you see them turn, and I'm over here like hee 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 because I can see what's happened, and they're like, what was that? So yeah, so I actually like Halloween quite a bit, and it's all about that, going back to the intention thing, right? It's like if you intend to do something evil with that extra energy that we have access to at that time, then that's one thing. But if you
Mm-hmm.
just want to enjoy it and just revel in the magic of it, and it's almost like take the time to appreciate that this life is not the end for us in that way, because even if you cross over, there are times when you can still come back for a little bit and just kind of acknowledge that there's more than what we think to this life. Yeah, so I like Halloween. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a beautiful holiday, and I'm glad you mentioned Dia de los Muertos. I'm, having had conversations with death doulas, people who help, or yeah, people who help other people who are crossing over, or a hospice too. I think this year, hopefully I'll remember, but this year will probably be my first year I'm actually going to celebrate that because it is so true that it is an opportunity to just honor the people who passed. Um, it's a really good opportunity to do that, and it's one of the most powerful days of the year too to do that. So it's really something I think everybody should celebrate. Um, so when it comes to, we talked about haunted houses, we talked about spirits. Sometimes we meet people who inhabit these spirits. Sometimes we know this, sometimes we don't, sometimes we find out, right? When it comes to not just like toxic people, but when it comes to people who we might have experienced that something's up, whether it was I don't want to name it, but it's like, something's up. This person's coming into my life, but it's like really just upending my life. It's really turning my life upside down. Is there anything people can do to help those people who are causing so much suffering to others?
Well, that depends. I mean, that's kind of a complicated question because when people like that come into our lives, sometimes they show up for a reason. Like they are there to teach us something, or we are there to teach them something. Usually it's both, right? Um, and sometimes that lesson is for us to not associate with those people anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
To not have
Mm-hmm.
that chaos in our lives. And for some of us, it's acknowledging that we do love that chaos that people bring. Because I know people who I'm just like, you're complaining about this person over and over. Like, why do you spend so much time with them? Oh, but I love their energy. Like, then you have to take the chaos that comes with it. So it just depends upon where you are in your life, what you want, and where you're at. I mean, because for me, I'm at the point where like I'm done with the chaos. Like you can take your chaos and keep going because I'm done. And for other people, they live for that stuff. So it's a matter of you deciding who and what kind of energy you want to surround yourself with, because you are the center of your universe, and therefore you get to decide what's in it. And if it's chaotic around you, that's because there's chaos within you.
Mm.
So if you don't want that reflected in your outer world, it needs to change in your inner world. Because what's outside is a direct reflection of what's inside.
What do you mean by the chaos within you? Because yeah, I completely agree, right? Your inner world or your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. There's people who have had instances who, like for example, they never stole in their life, you know, but then they keep on attracting people who steal from them. What would be the inner conflict in that situation that they're going through?
The energy of that is that that person has probably a belief that's buried within them that they
Mm.
deserve to be in that situation and have to deal with those situations or those kinds of people, or that they maybe that somehow they feel obligated that they must give everything that they have away to other people and not
Mm-hmm.
not fight for what is theirs, or that they don't deserve anything. So if somebody takes it, well, that's just the way it is. So that could be like part of the pattern that they follow. And that's what it is. It's like when you see this stuff over and over, it's a pattern. And once you recognize it,
Mm-hmm.
it can be broken. It's just a matter of like recognizing when you're following the pattern and make a different choice. That's not easy to do because it's a habit. We get into these patterns and we do the same things over and over and we don't think about it. And then it's like, oh, here we go again. It's like, okay, well, the trick is to take a step back when you can, notice when you're about to get into the pattern again, make a different choice. If nothing else, just to see where else you might end up versus going down the road that you've already been 100 times.
So how does one start to change that pattern? If they're experiencing the same things over and over and over again, how would they loop out of that? I mean, so the first step we know is awareness, but then what do they do after they become aware of that pattern?
At that point, if see, that's the thing. Once you become aware, you take a breath, you just take that moment, and then you think to yourself, the next thing is, what other choices can I make? What other
Mm.
options are there? Even if it's don't pick up the phone, don't return the text. Something just as simple as
Mm-hmm.
that can make all the difference.
Literally, your life will change. Your life will stop replying. Like literally. I wish more people would take that advice. Cause to me it's so simple. I'm always one of like I've never been an arguer. I know that there's some people who came here to experience what it's like to argue constantly with people. But man, sometimes I'm like, just don't reply. They're like, but I'm like, just don't reply. Turn off your phone. Just turn off your like, like if it's that hard, like. But I do recognize for some people it's a challenge because again, like you said, there's habits that we build, right?
Yeah, people talk themselves into all kinds of stuff, and it's always just take a breath. Like just that
Mm.
moment will allow you to like, do I really want to do this? Just and just acknowledge, okay, if I do want to do that, why do I want to do that? If I don't want to do that, why don't I want to do that? Just taking that
Mm.
moment, I mean, literally the space of a breath can completely change the trajectory of where you end up with something.
Real quick, I want to go back to something that you said earlier about. So you said you had a Catholic background,
Hmm.
and you were talking about how you're able to see angels and demons.
I've had that since I was a baby, according to my mom.
Wow. So a lot of people when they start their awakening process or they're like, oh, I want to activate my mediumship abilities or any of that, they get really scared the first time they try to activate those abilities because they don't know what they're seeing, they don't know what they're experiencing. What was that process like for you? Because I could only imagine. I don't have that ability myself, but I can only imagine seeing a demon is like not, and then even some of the angels, it's not angels like in the movies, y'all. It's literally like like in the Bible, like that's what they look like. Um, and not the cover of the Bible either. Okay, y'all. Again, look at the details. Look at not King James, the one before it. But seriously, so what was that like? Did you freak out the first time? Were you like, oh my god, or were you able to just accept that that's what it was?
Well, for me, because of the fact that it started when I was an infant, according to my mom, like by the time I actually recognized what was happening, by that time it was like, So, for instance, my mom said that when I was little, sometimes you meet people that you're just like, there's something up with them. I don't know. They seem nice, but there's something not right. What she would do
Mm-hmm.
with me is like, she would actually get me close to that person as an infant. And if I started screaming my head off, she knew something was wrong with them. And if I was okay with them, she knew that they were okay. And she didn't tell me this story until years later. And I was like, seriously, mom? You're using me as a litmus test for these things? And she said, you were never wrong. I said, okay.
Mm.
She goes, it may have taken a while for us to understand what was happening. She goes, but you were never wrong. That initial thing, you were never wrong. I said, okay.
Mm.
And so when I got older, and I was able to talk, and I'd say, Mom, there's like a lady in the corner and I can see through her. And she would say, did she say anything? And I'd say no. And she'd say, okay, well, then just leave her. It's fine. Okay. And then I would say, Mom, there's something crawling on the walls. And she would get all her stuff and she would bless our house. She
Mm.
never ever questioned me. She never said, don't say that. So it was totally normal for me. Like this was just who I was, what I did. And, I did all the things. I went to school, I went to college, I did all the stuff. I mean, I saw all the things all the time. But because it was normal for me, I just carried on.
That is so cool. And just for some context, so your mother's Hawaiian.
My mother is actually Portuguese because I was adopted.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, okay, okay. Interesting that she's from Portugal. Yeah, she's from Portugal. Um, that's so interesting.
Well, her family is originally from Portugal, but like she's My adopted mother was actually, she was like Portuguese. I think she has a little bit of Hawaiian. She definitely had some French in there. Because in Hawaii, like everybody's kind of mixed. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
too many like pure Hawaiians left. So yeah, so my mom was kind of like a mixture, and then I was actually adopted from her best friend. We
Mm-hmm.
have an informal process of adoption in Hawaii called hanai, which is literally like you have the baby and you hand it over to somebody who can take care of it, and that's how that happens. And so in my case, like I actually didn't have any contact with my birth family. I was raised by my adopted family and all of them. So
So I'm so curious because that perspective that she has, I'm literally amazed. I think you're the first person that I've heard of who had a you know a parent, a guardian who, you know, not only believed in your abilities but trusted your abilities, you know. Because I think a lot of people, like, even I think even my dad, he tells me stories of how he used to see stuff when he was a kid. um and you know, some guardians will be like, oh, I believe that you see it, but I don't trust, that's, you know, that's not of God or whatever, you know, they'll totally deny it. So I just think it's incredible that she had that perspective. And it's so crazy, you're just, oh, that's so cool. Like, one day hopefully it'll be me, but like, you just live it with it. You always lived with it. There's no difference between.
I mean, for me, this is it's Tuesday. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's that's how it's always been. This is how it's going to be for me. And I don't, and the funny thing, people are just like, oh, like, are you crazy? I'm just like, I don't know. Are you crazy? Just because I can see something and you can't doesn't make me crazy.
Period.
So
Period. No.
yeah, no, that's very true. It's the thing is though, it's like there's also the other half of it where people are like, "Oh, it's not a big deal," and I'm like, if you could actually see what I see, you would understand that actually is a big deal, and you need to slow your roll on that. So
Well, give us
it's
some
a
context.
well, for instance, sometimes I'll see people like I like to watch those ghost hunting shows. It cracks me up
Hmm.
because energy can imprint on film. And so while they're running around with their cameras in the dark, banging into things, and they're like, I can't find anything. I don't see anything. And I'm thinking, dude, if you could see what was standing right next to you, you would pee your pants.
Oh wow! Wait, you can see it through the TV screen?
Yes.
What? Oh, that's so cool. Oh my god, that's so cool. Wow, that's amazing.
Because energy can transfer through screens. And that's
Hmm.
why, like, I tell my students, when we start to work together and increasing their ability, like raising their vibration and getting them to work with energy more, I tell them you have to seal your screens with energy or things will come through.
How do you do that?
Well, for me, because I grew up Catholic, I just use the sign of the cross. And yeah, so I put that over my screens, telephone, computer, monitors, all that stuff. Any
Oh,
and
nice.
any
Okay.
reflective surface, so TVs. I mean, I'm people who are sensitive, like if you watch something that's like seriously emotionally charged or whatever, especially like a live event, you can actually feel that energy rolling through the TV. And so it's like, yeah, and other things can do that too. So seal your stuff.
That's it for part one. I will see you next week in part two. Peace.